Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive on money blogs.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at this article called How to Start and Monetize a Money Blog. And,
Catchy title?
it is, yeah. And, we've talked about just blogging in general before, but I think there's something really specific about money blogs that we can dive into,
Yeah, I think with money blogs, it's really interesting because, a lot of people get so stuck in the, how-to stuff, the actual mechanics of it.
Right.
That they kind of miss the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Actually understanding your audience and building that trust and creating content that really stands out in a very, very crowded space.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I feel like, even for myself, I always get so lost in the technical weeds of how to do something. And then I forget about all that other really important stuff that you just mentioned. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a great place to start, finding your niche, right? It's not as simple as being okay, I know about money. I'm going to start a money blog.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's not just you walk into a crowded marketplace and you just yell hey, everyone, I have financial advice.
Right.
You need to really target your message. Who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to Gen Z who are, grappling with student loans? Or are you, talking to seasoned investors who are, trying to navigate the complexities of retirement planning? You need to figure out that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Not just to stand out from the crowd,
Yeah.
but to really genuinely connect with the people that you're trying to reach.
Yeah. And it makes me think, too, about finding that sweet spot of where your passion is, but also where there is a need in the market, right? Like you said, those people who are trying to figure out retirement planning and where can you bring your expertise to actually help people?
Yeah. And I think, speaking of ripe opportunities, one area that I'm seeing really take off is, financial literacy, but for entrepreneurs.
Oh, interesting.
There are so many people launching online businesses and side hustles these days, and they need guidance on managing their finances, everything from taxes to investments.
Oh, totally. It's a whole different ball game than
Yeah, it's a whole different world.
having a regular 9 to 5.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's say we've figured out what our niche is, what we're passionate about, what we can bring to the table. How do we actually build the blog? This is where I feel like things can get kind of daunting.
Yeah. I mean, it can seem overwhelming at first, but the good news is a lot of the tools and platforms out there have become so user-friendly.
Right.
The article mentions WordPress, which is a really popular option.
Yeah.
And for good reason, it's super customizable. Tons of free themes and plugins. You don't have to be a coding wizard or anything to get started.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So speaking of user-friendly, what about choosing a hosting provider? I know the article rattles off a few names like Bluehost and Hostinger and SiteGround, but how do we know which one is right for us?
Well, that's where doing your homework pays off.
Yeah.
All of those options that you mentioned are all reputable, but they all kind of have their own strengths and, their pros and cons.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're just starting out and budget is your top priority, Hostinger has some really, really affordable plans.
Okay.
But if you're anticipating rapid growth and you really need top-notch customer support, SiteGround might be a better fit.
Right. Okay.
And then, Bluehost is often recommended for its ease of use, particularly for WordPress integration.
Okay. So thinking long term, not just being oh, this is the cheapest option. Let's just go with that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So we've got the platform, we've got, we're going to host it. There's one other really important element before we even get to content, and that's the domain name, right? that's our digital storefront.
It's your, it's like your storefront sign.
Yes.
It's the first thing people see. It's got to be memorable. It's got to be relevant to your niche and ideally easy to spell and pronounce.
Right.
You don't want something overly clever or cryptic where people are wait, what is this?
Right.
You want people to instantly understand what your blog is about. So think clear, concise, and catchy.
Love that. Okay, so we've got our, platform figured out. We've got our domain. We've got our hosting figured out. Now we can actually think about what the blog looks like, what the design is, what the layout is. And, a lot of that comes down to user experience, right?
Absolutely.
We want people to come to our site and be this is easy to navigate.
Exactly. So having a clean and uncluttered layout is super important, especially for a financial blog where people are coming to you for, clear information.
Right.
You don't want to overwhelm them with a million visuals or distracting elements.
Yeah.
Right? So think about intuitive navigation, easy to read fonts and like mobile responsiveness is huge these days
Yeah.
because so many people are accessing content on their phones.
Oh, absolutely. We can't just assume everyone's sitting at their desktop computer anymore.
Right.
Okay, so we've got our platform, we've got our domain, we've got our design. We're ready to start creating content. This is where I think a lot of money bloggers get stuck or maybe even make some mistakes. What are some of the biggest pitfalls to avoid when it comes to content creation?
Well, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people trying to cover like way too much ground.
Okay.
It can be tempting to write about everything from budgeting to investing to real estate. But, that lack of focus can really dilute your message and it makes it harder to attract like a dedicated audience.
So it's like trying to be a financial supermarket instead of like a specialized boutique?
Exactly. And people are drawn to experts.
Yeah.
They're drawn to voices that resonate with their specific needs and challenges. So when it comes to content creation, think quality over quantity, always.
That makes so much sense. It's better to have like a smaller library of like really in-depth, well-researched articles than like a ton of just like superficial posts that don't really offer a lot of value.
100%.
Okay, so we're creating this high-quality content, but how do we actually make sure that it reaches the people who need it? Like,
Right.
getting lost in the vast sea of internet content is a real concern.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where a solid understanding of SEO comes in.
SEO.
Search engine optimization.
Okay.
And it's not just about like stuffing your posts with keywords. It's really about understanding what people are searching for,
Right.
how they're phrasing their questions, and then creating content that provides like clear, comprehensive answers.
So it's about aligning your content with like actual search queries, like meeting people where they already are.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so are there any tools or resources that you recommend for people who are like, okay, I know I need to do SEO, but I don't really even know where to start?
Yeah, for sure. So Google Keyword Planner is like a great starting point.
Oh.
It allows you to like research keywords related to your niche. You can see how often they're being searched, and you can even like discover related terms that you might not have even thought of.
That's awesome.
And there's also some fantastic SEO plugins available for WordPress that can really help you like optimize your content and track your progress.
Okay, awesome. So now beyond just like the written word, I'm noticing that a lot of really successful money blogs are incorporating multimedia like infographics and videos. Is that like essential for keeping readers engaged these days?
Visual content can be super powerful, especially when you're dealing with, complex financial concepts. So, for example, a well-designed infographic can take like a really complicated topic and distill it down into like a really digestible and shareable format.
Yeah, I've seen some really impressive infographics that break down things like compound interest or like retirement planning in a way that's actually like visually appealing.
Yeah.
It's a far cry from like the dry textbook explanations I remember.
Right, exactly. And then, videos are a great way to connect with your audience on a more personal level. So think like, quick tips, explainer videos, even like behind the scenes glimpses into your own like financial journey.
Ah, the power of authenticity. Okay, so speaking of connecting with your audience, let's talk about building a community beyond just the blog itself. Like social media seems to be a key player here.
Social media is huge. And it's not just about like, blasting out links to your latest posts. It's really about thinking of social media as like an extension of your blog.
Okay.
It's a place to engage in conversations, answer questions, share relevant articles, and really build relationships with your followers.
So being an active participant, not just a broadcaster.
Exactly.
Okay. Are there any specific platforms that work better for like financial content than others? Like I imagine LinkedIn might be a good fit for certain niches.
Yeah, it really depends on your target audience. So LinkedIn is great for, professionals, entrepreneurs, those interested in investing and career advancement. But, Instagram could be really effective for like visual content and reaching a younger demographic.
Yeah.
Twitter's ideal for sharing news and insights and engaging in like those real-time discussions.
So it's about choosing strategically where your ideal readers already are.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Another big thing for building community and, nurturing a loyal following is email marketing, right?
Email marketing is huge.
Yeah.
It allows you to connect with your audience, directly deliver valuable content straight to their inbox, and, even personalize your messages based on their interests.
Yeah, and I love the idea of offering like a free lead magnet, like a budget template or a mini course in exchange for email signups.
Yeah.
It's like they get something valuable and you get to, build your email list.
It's a win-win.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about like creating content, building an audience now. Let's get to like the juicy part, like monetization.
Let's talk about money.
Yeah. How do we actually turn this passion project into a profitable venture? Because I know there's all sorts of income streams for money bloggers.
Well,
We've got affiliate marketing. We've got sponsored content. We've got creating your own digital products. Like, where do we even start?
So let's start with affiliate marketing, which is a super popular choice for a lot of bloggers. And it essentially involves partnering with companies whose products or services align with your niche.
Okay.
And then you earn a commission for every sale that you refer
Yep.
through your unique affiliate links.
So, like, if I'm writing about, personal finance tools, I could become an affiliate for, like, budgeting apps or online banks or even investment platforms.
Exactly. And the key is to choose products or services that you genuinely believe in. And that would be beneficial to your audience.
Yeah, authenticity, I think, is so crucial, especially when it comes to, like, financial advice. You don't want to be recommending something that you wouldn't use yourself or that you don't think is actually helpful for people. Okay, so we've got affiliate marketing. What about display ads? Those are all over the internet. Are those like a viable income stream for money blogs?
They can be, especially as your traffic grows. So platforms like Google AdSense make it really easy to get started, and you earn revenue based on like ad impressions or clicks.
Okay.
However, you got to strike a balance. You don't want to like overwhelm your readers with too many ads.
Right. Too many ads can be so distracting and actually like detract from the user experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. What about creating your own digital products? That seems like a really awesome way to kind of like package your expertise and offer something unique to your audience.
Totally. It's a great way to monetize your knowledge and build like a more sustainable business. So
Yeah.
think like ebooks, online courses, workshops, templates, or even like personalized coaching services.
So like if I'm an expert in debt management, I could create like a whole online course teaching people how to pay off debt faster, or like a downloadable workbook to help them track their progress.
Exactly.
It's all about identifying the needs of your audience and creating products that provide real value and solutions.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's sponsored content, which involves like partnering with brands to create content that features their products or services.
Right.
This is where transparency is key, right? We want to be upfront about any sponsored partnerships and make sure that they align with our values and our audience's interests.
Absolutely. Trust is everything in the financial world, and you don't want to compromise that by promoting something that you don't believe in.
For sure. So it's about finding that sweet spot where like the brand's message resonates with your audience and it's providing genuine value.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got all these amazing monetization strategies. It's easy to get caught up in like the chase for profits, but what about like the ethical considerations of running a money blog?
Yeah, that's a really important point. As money bloggers, we have a responsibility to provide accurate and unbiased information.
Right.
Our content can have a real impact on people's financial decisions, so it's essential to prioritize ethical practices. So that means being transparent about any potential conflicts of interest, disclosing affiliate relationships, and like fact-checking our information thoroughly.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that, we're not financial advisors.
Right.
We can provide general information and education, but it's crucial to encourage our readers to seek personalized advice from qualified professionals when needed.
Excellent advice.
Yeah.
We want to empower our readers to make informed decisions, but also to understand the limitations of the information we provide.
Right.
Okay, cool. So now with all these different monetization avenues, how do we track our progress and figure like what's working best?
That's where analytics tools come in. So Google Analytics is like a must-have.
Okay.
It provides insights into your website, traffic, audience demographics, popular content, and even conversion rates.
So we can see which blog posts are getting the most views, which affiliate links are generating clicks, and even which social media platforms are driving the most traffic to our site.
Exactly. Data is power. And by analyzing this information, we can refine our content strategy, optimize our monetization efforts, and just make, data-driven decisions to grow our blog.
It's about constantly learning, experimenting, and adapting our approach based on what the numbers tell us.
For sure.
Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one final piece of the puzzle I want to address, and that's the importance of mindset and consistency. Like, building a successful money blog isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. We can have like the best content and a solid monetization strategy, but without consistency, it's all for naught.
So true. It's so easy to get discouraged, when you don't see immediate results, especially in the early days. But it's that persistent effort, that dedication to showing up and delivering value that ultimately separates those who succeed from those who give up.
Yeah, and I think it's also crucial to remember why we started this journey in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, passion is a powerful fuel, and when you genuinely enjoy what you're writing about, that enthusiasm shines through and resonates with your audience.
It's palpable. readers can tell when you're just like churning out content versus when you're truly invested in the topics that you're discussing.
Yeah, and that authenticity is magnetic. It makes me think of like some of my favorite money blogs, the ones that really stand out, go beyond just like the technical advice. They weave in personal stories, relatable anecdotes, even a touch of humor to make the content engaging and memorable.
Yeah, it's about humanizing finance
Hmm.
because so often people feel intimidated or overwhelmed by money matters. But when you can present information in a way that's relatable and even entertaining, you break down those barriers and empower people to take control of their finances.
Yes, and it's not just about spreadsheets and interest rates. It's about helping people achieve their dreams, overcome financial challenges, and like build a better future for themselves and their families.
That's the real reward of money blogging, knowing that your content has the potential to make a tangible difference in people's lives.
Right. It really is. And as we kind of wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. Imagine you're a year into your money blogging journey. What does success look like to you?
Is it hitting a certain income target? Is it building a thriving online community? Or maybe it's receiving emails from readers telling you how your content helped them pay off debt, land their dream job, or finally start investing for retirement.
Whatever your definition of success is, remember that this journey is uniquely yours. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the wins, and never stop learning and growing.
And most importantly, have fun along the way.
Yes.
Because when you're passionate about what you're doing, that joy becomes infectious and it draws people in.
So true. Well, that brings us to the end of this first part of our deep dive. We'll be back next week with part 2, where we'll continue our exploration of how to start and monetize a money blog. So make sure you tune in for that.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive on money blogs.
We're back.
We are back. And, we talked all about, finding your niche and setting up your blog last time. And I think there's still so much to cover.
Oh, yeah. Tons to talk about.
So much, yeah. So where should we pick up? I think we were talking about the content creation process.
Right. Yeah. Content is king, as they say.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
So, last time we talked about quality over quantity.
Right. Finding your niche, really honing in on that.
Yeah. And that's super important. But there's also this other aspect of content creation that I think is worth diving into, which is really understanding your audience's pain points.
Okay. Interesting.
Like, what are the specific challenges they're facing? What are their goals? And how can your content provide solutions?
It's like being a problem solver almost.
Exactly. You're not just providing information.
Yeah.
You're providing actionable advice that people can actually implement in their lives.
Right. It's not just theory. It's actually helping people.
Exactly. And the better you understand your audience, the better you can tailor your content to their needs and the more value you can provide.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think it ties back to building trust, right?
Totally.
When people feel like you genuinely understand their struggles, they're more likely to trust your advice and recommendations.
100%.
Uh-huh.
It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, I love that.
Right? So it's all about showing that empathy and that understanding.
Okay, so let's talk about some practical ways to kind of dig deeper into understanding our audience. Where do we even start?
So there's a few different approaches you can take. One is, doing some good old-fashioned market research.
Okay.
So reading industry reports, looking at competitor blogs, seeing what kind of content they're creating and how their audience is responding.
So it's almost like doing a competitive analysis, but also looking at what's resonating with people.
Exactly. And you can also use social media to your advantage. Joining relevant Facebook groups or following hashtags on Twitter or Instagram to see what people are talking about.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And, don't be afraid to ask your audience directly,
Right.
Create polls on Instagram stories or send out surveys to your email list to get feedback on what they're struggling with and what kind of content they'd like to see more of.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that kind of ties back to what we were talking about before with building that email list and nurturing those relationships with your readers.
Yeah, exactly. Your email list is like your gold mine.
True.
These are the people who are the most engaged with your content and the most likely to convert into paying customers down the line.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about actually creating that content. I know we talked about, quality over quantity, but what are some tips for actually crafting compelling blog posts that people are going to want to read and share?
So first and foremost, like we said before, understand your audience's pain points and create content that directly addresses those challenges.
Right.
But beyond that, you want to make sure your writing is clear,
Yeah.
concise, and engaging.
Yeah. No one wants to read a wall of text.
Nobody wants to wade through like a textbook, you know?
Right, exactly.
So break up your paragraphs, use headings, subheadings, bullet points, all those visual cues that make your content more scannable and digestible.
Yes. And I think it's really important, too, to make sure that your writing is, like, personable and relatable. Like, it shouldn't feel like it's coming from a robot.
Yeah, inject your personality into your writing.
Yeah.
People connect with people, so don't be afraid to, like, share personal anecdotes or stories that illustrate your points.
I love that. And I think that also helps with, like, building that and trust factor that we were talking about before.
Yeah, for sure. And then, don't forget about the visuals. Like we talked about earlier, images, infographics, videos, all of those things can really enhance your content and make it more engaging and shareable.
So it's not just about writing, it's about creating like a whole experience for the reader.
Exactly. And, one final tip I would give is to make sure you have a clear call to action at the end of every blog post.
Okay, interesting.
Like, what do you want your readers to do after they finish reading your post? Do you want them to leave a comment, share it on social media, sign up for your email list,
right?
Make it clear what action you want them to take, and make it easy for them to do so.
So it's like giving them that next step so they don't just like read the post and then disappear into the internet void.
Exactly. You want to keep them engaged and moving through your content funnel.
Okay, cool. So we've talked about creating the content now. Let's talk about promoting it, because even the best content in the world won't get seen if nobody knows about it.
Right. You got to get it out there.
Yes. So how do we effectively promote our money blog and get it in front of our target audience?
So social media is obviously a huge one.
Right.
Like we talked about earlier. But it's not just about sharing links to your blog posts. You want to create engaging content that's specific to each platform.
So it's like thinking about each platform as its own unique entity.
Exactly. And you want to tailor your content accordingly. So, like on Instagram, you might share behind-the-scenes photos or videos or run polls and Q&As.
Okay.
On Twitter, you might share quick tips or industry news and engage in conversations with other thought leaders.
Right. So it's about being strategic and thinking about like what's going to resonate on each platform.
Exactly. And then, beyond social media, there's a lot of other ways to promote your blog.
Okay.
Guest posting on other websites is a great way to reach a wider audience.
Okay.
You can also collaborate with other bloggers on joint ventures or cross-promote each other's content.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And, don't underestimate the power of email marketing.
Right. We love email marketing.
Yes. Regularly emailing your subscribers with valuable content and updates is a great way to keep them engaged and coming back for more.
Okay, so we're creating this awesome content, we're promoting it, we're building this community, but now we got to talk about money.
Right. Let's talk about monetization.
Yes, because we're talking about money blogs. So how do we actually start making money from all of this hard work?
So we touched on this a little bit in the last episode.
Re-affiliate marketing.
Exactly. Affiliate marketing, sponsored content, digital products.
Yeah.
All of those are viable options. But, it's important to choose the monetization strategies that align with your niche, your audience, and your values.
Right. Like I said before, authenticity is key. So
Totally.
if you're recommending something that you don't actually believe in, people are going to see right through that.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's also important to be patient.
Okay.
Like building a profitable money blog takes time and effort.
Right.
You're not going to get rich quick.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-mm.
So set realistic expectations and focus on building a sustainable business for the long term.
That makes so much sense. And I think it also ties back to what we were talking about before with like mindset and consistency. Like
Definitely.
if you're in it for the quick buck, you're probably going to burn out really quickly. But if you're passionate about what you're doing and you're committed to showing up consistently, even when it's tough, that's when you're going to start seeing real results.
Absolutely. And, it's also important to track your progress and make adjustments along the way.
Right.
So like use Google Analytics to see which blog posts are performing well, which monetization strategies are generating the most revenue. And, based on that data, you can tweak your approach and optimize your efforts.
So it's like a constant process of learning and refining and improving.
Exactly. It's all about continuous improvement.
I love that. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about understanding our audience, creating compelling content, promoting our blog, monetizing it. But there's one final thing I want to touch on before we wrap up, and that's the importance of community. Like, building a community around your money blog can be so powerful both for you and for your readers.
Community is everything you know.
Really is.
It's what separates like a good blog from a great blog.
Okay.
When people feel like they're part of a community, they're more likely to engage with your content, share it with their friends, and become loyal followers.
So how do we actually foster that sense of community? Like, what are some tangible steps we can take?
So, first and foremost, like respond to comments and messages.
Oh, yeah.
Like engage with your audience. Show them that you're listening and that you care about what they have to say.
So it's not just about like broadcasting your message. It's about actually having a two-way conversation.
Exactly. And, host online events or webinars to connect with your audience in real time.
Okay.
Create private Facebook groups or Slack channels where people can connect with each other and share their experiences.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And, just be present and active on social media.
Right.
Like engage with other people's content, share your own insights, and just be a valuable member of the community.
I love that. And I think it's really important to remember that like building a community takes time and effort.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight,
It's an ongoing process.
Exactly. So be patient,
Yeah.
be consistent, and focus on building genuine relationships with your readers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our deep dive. Next time, we're going to be talking about some of the challenges and rewards of running a money blog. So make sure you tune in for that.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive on money blogs.
Part 3.
It is part 3. We're almost at the finish line.
We made it.
We did it so last time. We were talking all about community and why that's so important.
It is so important.
And I think, we touched on a lot of different aspects of money blogging, but there are some like challenges and rewards that come with running a money blog.
Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
It's definitely not all passive income and beaches.
Definitely not.
So let's talk about some of the challenges first. Like, what are some of the biggest hurdles that money bloggers face?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is just like staying motivated and consistent.
Okay.
It's easy to get excited about starting a blog and creating content, but the reality is that it takes a lot of time and effort to build a successful blog.
Right. And it's not something that happens overnight.
Exactly. And, you're not going to see results immediately. So it can be really discouraging, especially in the early days.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like you're putting in all this work and you're like, is anyone even reading this?
Right. Exactly. And, another challenge is just like dealing with the competition.
Right.
Like the personal finance space is super crowded these days.
It is so crowded.
So it can be tough to stand out and attract an audience.
Yeah. And with so many like big name bloggers out there, it's like, how do you even break through?
Right. And, it's not just about competing with other bloggers. It's also about competing with like, traditional media outlets and financial institutions.
Oh, totally.
Everyone's creating content these days, so you really got to up your game.
Okay, so staying motivated, dealing with competition, any other like big challenges that come to mind?
I think another challenge is just like managing your time effectively.
Okay.
Like running a blog is essentially like running a small business.
It is.
You're wearing multiple hats, you're creating content, you're promoting it, you're managing your finances, you're dealing with technical issues.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. So it's important to be organized and prioritize your tasks so you don't get overwhelmed.
That makes sense. And I think, even for people who aren't necessarily running a money blog, like that's just good advice in general.
Oh, totally. Time management is key.
Okay, so those are some of the challenges. But let's talk about the flip side. Like, what are some of the most rewarding aspects of running a money blog?
Oh, man. There's so many rewards.
Yeah.
I think first and foremost is just like the ability to help people.
Right.
Like we talked about earlier, personal finance can be a really intimidating topic for a lot of people.
It can be very overwhelming.
So when you can create content that helps people understand their finances, make better decisions, and achieve their financial goals, it's just incredibly rewarding.
It's like you're making a tangible difference in people's lives.
Exactly. And, it's not just about the financial impact. It's also about the emotional impact.
Yeah.
Like when you get emails from readers telling you how your blog helped them get out of debt or buy their first home or retire early, like that's just priceless.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
It's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and I think, beyond helping people, there's also just like the creative freedom and flexibility that comes with running your own blog. You get to choose what you write about. You get to set your own schedule. You get to work from anywhere in the world.
It's the ultimate freedom.
It really is. And I think that's something that a lot of people are looking for these days, like that work-life balance and that ability to kind of like be their own boss.
Yeah, exactly. And, another reward is just like the community aspect.
Right.
Like we talked about earlier, building a community around your blog can be so amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's like you're connecting with like-minded people who are passionate about the same things that you are.
Exactly. And, you can learn so much from your readers as well.
Oh,
It's
totally.
a two-way street.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the rewards, but now let's get real. Like, is it actually possible to make a living from money blogging?
So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
It is definitely possible to make a living from money blogging, but it's not easy.
Okay.
It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and, a little bit of luck. But, if you're passionate about personal finance, you're good at creating content, and you're willing to put in the effort, it's definitely achievable.
So it's not like a get-rich-quick scheme.
No, not at all.
Like any other business, you got to put in the work.
Exactly. And, it's important to have realistic expectations.
Right.
You're probably not going to be making six figures overnight.
Right.
But, if you're consistent and you focus on building a sustainable business, you can definitely make a comfortable living from your blog.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for those people who are listening who are like, okay, this sounds amazing, I'm ready to start my money blog,
Right.
what advice would you give them?
So I would say first and foremost, just start.
Just do it.
Just do it. Don't get caught up in the perfectionism trap.
Right.
It's okay if your first blog post isn't perfect or if your website isn't super fancy. Just get your content out there and start building your audience.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to find your voice and be authentic.
Totally.
People can spot a fake from a mile away.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, just be yourself, share your story, and connect with your readers on a personal level.
I love that. And I think, the last piece of advice I would give is just to have fun.
Yes.
If you're not enjoying the process, it's going to show.
Exactly. So, choose a niche that you're passionate about, create content that you're proud of, and just enjoy the journey.
That's such great advice.
Mm.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive on money blogs.
We made it!
We did it. We covered a lot of ground, but I hope this has been helpful for anyone who's thinking about starting their own money blog, or even just for those who are interested in learning more about the world of personal finance.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or want to learn more, feel free to reach out to us on social media or check out the show notes for links to all the resources we mentioned.
Awesome. And as always, thanks for tuning in to the deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.